Mark, we recently announced that we've entered a period of exclusivity with a potential new investor. Just what does that mean, first of all?
Well, fans will know from a couple of fans forums and interviews that Nigel's given that the club's been looking for a new investor for some period of time now. We started the process back in September, October time, and we've gone through a process. We used a third-party investment banker or investment bank that are used to dealing in this kind of transaction, dealt with other football clubs, and you go through a process of putting the information out there. Obviously, we've had to provide financial information, lots of other information that any potential purchaser and investor would be interested in. And after a period of time, that got narrowed down, went out to quite a few people, got narrowed down to probably half a dozen of really interested parties, and we've entered into a period of exclusivity with a preferred bidder. Basically, it just means that we've reached we've got an outline agreement on what it would look like, what the investment would look like, and the exclusivity period just gives both sides the chance to go through process, due diligence on both sides. So it's just a case of giving both parties time, having reached an outline agreement, just gives both parties a framework in which to try and get the process and the investment over the line.
And that news, has been met with some excitement from some fans, but given the club's history, also a little bit of worry from some, if we're being completely honest. What can you tell us to sort of reassure everyone as to what this potential new investor could?
It should be viewed as an exciting opportunity for Leyton Orient to, get into a further at the journey of progression. We've got to a stage now where we're up in League One. We're a pretty stable club. We've got a good fan base, and we want to rather than stand still. It's time for us to move on to the next stage, which is obviously to compete at the top end of League One and do everything we can to try and get ourselves up into the Championship, which we believe we could do. But as people know, it's an expensive investment to get into the Championship and then to stay in the Championship and not just be a yo-yo club. So it's an exciting time. Nigel's been very clear. I think he said it on several occasions to fans and in conversations that his interest has been making sure that Orient is around in 100 years' time when we've all gone, but the club is still here. He wants his legacy to be that this is a time when the club really took an opportunity to take a fairly significant leap forward with the right owners. And I completely understand why fans would be concerned after what happened back in 2014 and where the club ended up in 3 short years and the disastrous situation it was in. The good news is that under Nigel, Kent, the board, all of us that work at the club, we're in a pretty clean position now. The club, it still loses money, and we're open about that. People see our accounts. We lose a lot less money than pretty much most of the clubs in League One. We still lose more than we would like to lose. So we're in a really good position. As I say, we'd like to have reduced those losses further. But the fact that we are in a healthy position and we're in a part of London which is growing, we've got great transport links. That's one of the reasons why transport links, the state of the club, the fan base as it is, and the potential fan base, everything else that goes with that is the reason why there was significant interest in the club. So Nigel will still look to be involved, and part of the arrangement is that Nigel will continue to be a shareholder, will continue to in his role as chairman going forward. And I think that's important for the fans, because the fans know that he, first and foremost, he's an Orient man. His family's Orient through and through. And I think, Nigel represents a very safe pair of hands, and he wants to see the best for the club. And it isn't just about the size of somebody's cheque. So Nigel will continue to be involved. The management of the club will remain unaltered. It's been important that Richie has met with the prospective investors, because Richie's clearly a very, very important part of the club. So there's lots of things to be positive about. Fully understand why people would be a little nervous, but I think it's fair to say that we've gone through a due process of our own, making sure that we're talking to the right people, given that they're also making sure that the club is what they're looking at investing into, and that there's nothing hidden. And as I say, it's a pretty clean club. We've got no skeletons in our cupboard. All our bills are paid. We owe nothing to clubs. We owe nothing to the tax man. So it should be viewed as a really exciting period of time for the fan base as we look to take a next step in our journey, fully understanding why there'd be some concern. But I think it's fair to say that they don't. Nigel would not be involved in the process they were involved in if he felt there was a doubt about that.
While this process takes place, I think it's important we also say that it's not necessarily a formality. There is a chance that it doesn't happen, but assuming it all goes smoothly, how does the day-to-day running of the club change while this process happens?
Absolutely no changes whatsoever. Everything carries on as normal, which was basically in the statement that we put out earlier in the week. Everything carries on as normal, on and off the field. The challenge now is to, after that fantastic win on Tuesday night, is to see how we can do in terms of getting into the playoffs and perhaps looking beyond that. I mean, it's getting really exciting at the top of the table. I think it's fair to say that not many people gave us a chance of winning at Wrexham. Maybe a few fancied a point, but it was a real statement victory. And I think that the playoffs is the very least we should be aiming for. So no change in the operation. Our aspirations are still the same, to finish as high up as possible. If possible, to get in the automatic places, which will be a tough stretch, but not impossible. Certainly to get into the playoffs. Nothing changes on and off the field. It's business as usual, and the process will go on in the background. You're right to say there's no... that's the other reason why there's this exclusivity period. It gives both sides just to go through in more detail, do more due diligence on each other, really. And so it's not a given, but certainly we're very hopeful that we'll get the investment across the line in a fairly quick timescale.
I mean, it feels like a really exciting time on the pitch, as you say, and obviously there's this process happening off the pitch. We just touch a little bit on the home game we had recently, the Manchester City one. Just how special a day was that from your point of view and from the view of the sort of administration side of the club?
I try to put it in my programme notes that I had plenty of friends text me to congratulate us on beating Derby and looking forward to Man City, and almost to a person they all said, "Oh, it'd be worth so much money to you guys." And clearly there was a really big financial upside for the club, but it was also about showing the wider world, particularly as it was on BBC, the wider world, nationally and internationally, what this club's all about. The players put on a fantastic display and showed what they're all about, and did themselves great credit and great service. You'll know from behind the scenes, we normally, I think you've told me that we normally have 25 to 30 members of the press here, and we had nearly 200, and trying to find those facilities in a stadium that is, it's not the biggest in the world and it's quite compact. It isn't really built for that kind of media presence. All the additional cameras gave us some operational issues on the day as well. The staff were fantastic. Everyone worked their absolute backsides off. Fans were brilliant. I've been at the club just coming up to 3 years now. That's the loudest I've heard us, not just by a little way, but that was a fantastic sort of noise that was in the crowd. Whether it was just the excitement of Man City being here, if we can reproduce for the remaining 6 games of the home season, get right behind the players, I know that's going to stand us in good stead, and the players would be really grateful of that kind of backing. So it was great to put the club in a sort of international limelight, if you like, show what we're all about. Lots of people who'd never seen a stadium now know what Orient's all about. They've seen it, they've seen the atmosphere that can be created, they've seen what we can do on the field, and I'm incredibly proud about what yourself and the rest of the team managed to achieve off the field, because we don't have huge resources, and as I say, it was a long day for everyone, but I think it's one that will live long in the memory, not just because we ran Man City so close on the field, but we were able to, bring in more hospitality, and we had to go off-site with hospitality. So we had the biggest hospitality numbers we've ever had. We took more in merchandise and retail. The catering and the food and beverage bars produced record receipts. So the fans really came in and enjoyed the day, and we're grateful for their support, both financial and the fact that they just created a wonderful atmosphere. So I think it really put Orient on the map, really. So not so little Leyton Orient anymore.
I think we're all hopeful of how the season may end, but just regardless of that, how promising a time is it for Leyton Orient now, do you think?
It's if there's a fan that isn't excited about where we currently are at, I'd be amazed as to why that is. I mean, I know we make some decisions, or I make some decisions that not everyone agrees with, but we do them with the best intentions. The players speak for themselves, what they've managed to do after an indifferent start for a variety of reasons, to get themselves to where they are now, and just to see the numbers of people that in 8-9 days notice. The amount of people that could get themselves up to Wrexham on a Tuesday night. It's a horrendously long journey on a Tuesday night. Fantastic support. There'll be great support at Bolton at the weekend, at Birmingham next Tuesday. It's a great time to be an Orient fan, and I think on the field the players speak for themselves. Off the field, I think we've got some great staff. We're in a great position. So I think it's a really good time to be an Orient supporter. And as I say, if we get this new investment across the line, who knows where we can take the club. But certainly, into the playoffs and beyond, we're all keen to see it establish itself see the club establish itself in the Championship, which is going to take a lot of doing. As I say, we have limited resources, and even if I wanted to bring in lots of new members of staff, we at the moment really haven't got anywhere to put anybody. So it is it's a real challenge, but I'm very proud of all the staff that we have and the hard work that's gone into it. And I think for Orient now, and their supporters, they should be really excited about the future.